You can't say that Islam is a religion of peace, because Islam, it does not mean peace. Islam is means Islam submission. So the Muslim is the one who submits. You know, there's a place for violence in Islam. There's a place for jihad in Islam. The Quran is full of, jihad is the most talked about duty in the Quran after Tawheed, belief. Nothing else is mentioned more than the topic of fighting.
What were your thoughts on the 7/7 bombings? Did you condemn them? Did you support them?
For the people who carried it out, it was legitimate. If you look at the will of Muhammad Siddiq Khan and Shijat Tanvir, they will justify, and they will bring many verses from the Quran and many statements to say that that's the Islamic argument. And it's a difficult Islamic argument to refute, and there are many scholars who support that argument as well.
Chowdhury says his group is merely following core Islamic teachings. He says Islam is much more than a religion.
This particular belief is more than just a religion. It's not just a spiritual belief. It is in fact an ideology which you believe in and you struggle for and you're willing even to die for, because you believe in that. That is your whole life.
If in the Quran, their God asked them to kill infidels, to kill people who don't believe in him.
Okay.
Christians, Jews, and anybody who doesn't believe in Islam, those are his words, and all Muslims believe that this Quran, word by word from God.
Why? Well, the Muslims who are killing the Christians say it's because it's their duty. It's their duty. Well, before we go to any more callers, let's find out. Is that right? I'd love for a Muslim to call and tell us no, and tell us why it isn't their duty from a Muslim perspective. 248-416-1300, because when I look at the Quran, I see that it is in fact the duty of Muslims to fight, to kill the unbelievers wherever they find them. Let's just look at a few verses from the Quran. Hopefully a Muslim will call in to either confirm that yes, it is their duty to kill Christians and Jews. That would be refreshing to hear someone say that, admit that, even though it would be sad. Or Muslims to call in and tell us, no, Islam is not supposed to kill people of other religions, and why. And I haven't seen that yet, but if you have a good Islamic justification from the Quran, from the Hadith, from the Sirat al-Rasul, call us 248-416-1300. We'd like to hear from you. Surah 9, verse 123. Let's take a look at that right now. O ye who believe, fight the unbelievers who gird you about, and let them find firmness in you, and know that Allah is with those who fear him. Fight the unbelievers that are around you. So the Quran tells Muslims to fight those who are around them. You know about Surah 929, don't you? Surah 929, Surah Al-Tawbah, Surah 929, a specific verse for the Christians and the Jews. Fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which Allah hath forbidden by Allah and his messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from among who? From among the people of the book, until when? Until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. The Arabic word there is saghairun, that means to be made small, to be humiliated. And then again, Surah 9, Surah Al-Tawbah, Surah 9, verse 5, Surah 9:5, the ayah of the sword, one of the last verses supposedly revealed to Muhammad, a verse that abrogates any verses that contradict it, like let there be no compulsion of religion, Surah 9:5. But when the forbidden months are past, then fight and kill the pagans wherever you find them. Actually, the word in Arabic there for pagan is mushrikeen. It says, فَإِذَا انصلح الأشهر الحرم فَقَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَيْثُ وَجِدُوا. قَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ. Kill the polytheists wherever you find them. Seize them, beleaguer them, and lie in war with them. Surah 8:12. Strike terror into the hearts of the unbelievers. Cut on their necks and cut off every fingertip of them. Surah 8:60 says the same thing. Here's another surah, another ayah I want to give you before we go to our callers. There's Surah 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, by the way. Surah 2, verse 190 through 193. Fight in Allah with those who fight with you. Kill them wherever you find them. Fight them, verse 193, until what? Until there is no more disorder and Allah's supremacy is established. Fight with them until there is no fitna. Essentially, Muslims are to fight with unbelievers until when? Until there is no more unbelief, there is no more kuffar, there is no more Christians and Jews who worship in their minds three gods or take partners with Allah, fight with them until Islam rules the whole world. When are the Muslims going to stop fighting the Christians? When Jesus returns. All right, what about Surah? We've got more and more and more. I'll just give a couple more before we go to our callers. How about Muhammad? Now remember, Muslims are supposed to follow the example of Muhammad. Surah 33 verse 21 and other surahs, other ayahs say that Muslims should follow the example of Muhammad. As a matter of fact, the entire corpus of the hadith, the sunnah, is based on the idea that Muslims should follow Muhammad's example. Well, what about Surah Al-Anfal? Surah Al-Anfal, verse 65. Let's take a look. O Prophet, rouse the believers to kill or to fight. It's actually, the verb here is kittala, which means kill. O Prophet, rouse the believers to kill. And then again in verse 67, it is not fitting for a prophet that he should have prisoners of war until he hath made a severe slaughter in the land. You can continue on and you can find where Allah tells Muhammad that he is supposed to fight jihad against the unbelievers. And of course, we know that Muhammad himself says in well-known hadith, Sahih al-Bukhari, I've been ordered to fight against everyone until they say that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his prophet. And we find this time and time and time again, not only commanded on to the believers, that is the Muslims in this context, but also to Muhammad, and everyone who follows his example is to fight and to kill. This is Islam. This is the example of Muhammad. This is what he did in Medina to the Jews, and this is Banu Qurayza. This is what he did in Khaybar. This is actually why Muhammad was killed.
The real burning question in the world today is, does Islam and Islamic civilization actually sanction the violence that we're seeing being perpetrated in its name around the world? And to that we have to answer, if we're going to be honest about it, an unqualified yes. The Islamic sources, the Islamic texts, starting with the Quran, but not limited to the Quran, the Islamic texts including the Hadith, Islamic tradition, Islamic theology, Islamic law, the traditions of the interpretation of the Quran throughout history and Islamic history itself all bear witness to the fact that Islam has a developed doctrine, theology, and law that mandates violence against unbelievers. The Quran occupies a place that has no parallel in Western civilization. The Quran is considered by Muslims and by traditional Islamic theology to be dictated word for word by God himself, by Allah himself, through the angel Gabriel to the Prophet Muhammad. As a result, every word of it is the words of God himself. Every word of the Quran, unless it is canceled by another section of the Quran itself, is valid for all time and cannot be questioned, cannot be reformed, cannot be changed within an Islamic context. This means that moderate Muslims, peaceful Muslims, if they are sincere, have to reject entirely Quranic literalism. But to do so puts them outside the sphere of anything that has been considered Orthodox Islam throughout history, because to do so is to reject the very basic premise of Islam, that this is a book that is dictated by God and is a perfect copy of a perfect book, the al-Kitab, the mother of the book that has existed forever with Allah in heaven.
Surah 98, verse 6. Verily, those who disbelieve in the religion of Islam, the Quran and Prophet Muhammad, from among the people of the Scripture, Jews and Christians, and al-Mushrikun, other disbelievers, will abide in the fire of hell. They are the worst of creatures.
Since there is no sense of natural morality in Islam, you have to go into either the Quran or the Hadith to find out what is allowed and what is not allowed.
And in those books we have very clear instructions from the Prophet Muhammad that it is the responsibility of Muslims to meet the unbelievers on the battlefield, to invite them either to accept Islam or to accept second-class dhimmi status in the Islamic State, and if they refuse both of those, then to wage war against them.
Fight against those who believe not in Allah, nor in the last day, nor forbid that which has been forbidden by Allah and His Messenger. And fight against those who acknowledge not the religion of truth, Islam, among the people of the Scripture, Jews and Christians, until they pay the jizya, the poll tax, with willing submission, and feel themselves subdued.
You pointed out that Allah in the Quran, am I correct in this, is actually a deceiver, that he has the attributes of Satan himself?
Well, the 99 names of Allah are very well known in Islam.
Yeah.
Some of these names, if you look at them, one of the names of Allah in the Quran is Al-Mutakabbir, which means the most proud one. When I read the Bible as a Muslim, and I saw the most proud one in the Bible was Satan, or Al-Mumit, the one who causes death.
Exactly. Well, you know, I'm just writing a book. I've just finished one on humility, and the truth is the root sin of the world is pride. Yeah, I will exalt myself upon the throne of God.
And that's the problems where Muslims cannot see the truth from the Bible.
But the one that they say is Allah is the most proud one?
The most. We say Al-Mutakabbir.
Yeah.
It's the L, like the Elohim. Al is the most proud one. So the most proud one is Allah.
But that's really Satan.
Exactly. And it's worse than that, because he's the one who causes death, Al-Mumit.
Yeah.
Al-Makir, the great deceiver.
Yes.
This is the names of Allah in the Quran. So
they really believe the great deceiver?
Yes.
I mean, in America, we don't hear this.
Yes, in the Quran it says وَيَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. Allah is the greatest of all deceivers.